All right, this is the introduction to agriculture, and we're going to talk about some of the terms that deal with this class. It's important for you to understand them before we move any further. So the first term that I like to talk about is agriscience. You saw in your syllabus, you saw in your class schedule, the class is called agriscience. So agriscience, what it means is the application of the scientific principles and new technologies to agriculture. Agriscience is considered an applied science. What that means is we take biology, chemistry, and physics, and we apply them. And so a couple of examples of that would be an agronomist. An agronomist is someone that studies crops. They're going to take biology and chemistry, and they're going to develop new ways to control weeds. You know, figure out chemicals that are going to target those weeds and kill those weeds so we don't have to deal with them, and our crops can grow better. An entomologist, someone that studies insects, they're going to take their knowledge of biology, how an insect lives and works, and their chemistry knowledge to develop new ways to kill those insects, to control them. By developing chemicals, they're going to target specifically that insect. Agriculture engineers, they're going to use physics in order to develop more efficient machinery. The tractors of today are a lot more efficient as far as the fuel they use compared to the tractors of 100 years ago. And finally, it's important to understand that agriscience employs the scientific method to solve problems in agriculture. So remember that scientific method where you identify the problem and you go through a list of steps in order to come up with a solution or figure out how to overcome that problem and improve on that situation. That's the scientific method. You know, is used in agriscience every day by all careers. And there's a guy studying insects. He's an entomologist. All right, so agriculture is another important term to focus on. Agriculture is concerned with the production, processing, marketing, and distribution of all agricultural products, related services, and supplies. So we're going to take everything in agriculture all the way from the farmer who produces it all the way to the person that's going to market and then the person that's going to eat it. So it goes everywhere from the beginning of that crop to the end of it. So a couple of examples. They're going to deal with agriculture, and to understand each one of those key components of agriculture is the production, processing, marketing, transportation, and related supplies and services. So with cattle, we're dealing with cows, beef production. So the production would fall under the farmer, the cow-calf, and feeder steers. The farmer is going to be the person that raises the calf all the way to that steer that's going to go to market and be slaughtered, which that then takes us to the processing part of it. There's going to be people that work in the slaughter facility. They're rendering the beef, and then also leather production comes from cows. So they're processing that to make a different product. There's the marketing. The marketing is the butcher, the grocery store, the person that cuts up the steaks and then sells them to you. And then transportation, it's got to get from the farm to the grocery store somehow. It's got to get from the slaughterhouse to the grocery store. However, it's got to get there somehow. And it also has to go around the world to feed people in different areas. So that can happen through plane, train, or rail, or truck. However, related supplies and services, that cow has to be healthy. So there's different people that could be involved with that. That's the veterinarian. They're going to treat all illnesses in animals. And then as far as feed dealer, you got to have food to feed that cow. So there's going to be a food dealership where you're going to buy that food from. All right. Also with wheat production, the same principles apply. The production, processing, marketing, transportation, and related supplies and services. So the wheat, there's the farmer, there's the harvest the grain, there's the processing. It's going to end up at a grain mill, these giant silos. And then they're going to be processed into flour, which then is going to make bread. Marketing, you got the bakery that's going to sell that bread, or cook it and bake it and make it into this special type of bread. There's this transportation, so there's big grain trucks like 18-wheelers, and there's also trains that are going to haul that grain as well to get where it needs to go. And the related supplies and services. There's a fertilizer dealership. That fertilizer is going to help those plants grow, give it the nutrition it needs so you get more grain. There's crop scouting. You got to figure out what insects or weeds are going to be hurting your crop, and so you got to treat those. There's the machinery dealer. You got to have today we have big tractors and combines that are responsible for planting and then harvesting that crop. It's not done by hand anymore. All right, roses, appealing to the ornamental side of agriculture. There's the production, processing, and marketing, and then transportation and related supplies and services. There you see those words again. So you have the production of roses, the grower is going to grow them, the flowers. You have the processing and the marketing. So you harvest it, and then it can go to a wholesale, which is going to be sold for cheaper, and then like Walmart can take those flowers and sell them for more money, which would be the retail florist. So you got people that are selling those flowers. Just because you can cut the flower off the vine or the plant, it doesn't mean that you can sell it. So you got to have people to sell it. The transportation, it travels, plane, train, truck, delivery driver, related supplies and services. You got to have glass vases. In most cases, you got to have some kind of container for those roses to be in. You have greenhouse manufacturers, so you're going to grow these plants in greenhouses. That way you can grow them all the time, all year round, even when it's cold. And then you have floral designers. You got people that are going to put them in arrangements, make them look nice, make them look cool, and that's what's going to make people want to buy them. All right, an agribusiness. An agribusiness refers to commercial firms meaning businesses, that had developed with or stemmed out of agriculture. So an agribusiness, you take apart that word, you have agriculture and you have business. So if it deals with agriculture at all, it is called an agribusiness. A tractor supply company would be a farm-related place or farm-related agribusiness. You also have chemical companies. You have pharmaceutical companies like veterinary medicines is going to treat your cows or other animals when they're sick. Horticulture-related. You have landscape. You have nursery businesses. You're going to make your yards look wonderful. You have seed companies where farmers can go out and plant all these big fields. So you got those seeds, and you have mower manufacturers. So the mower manufacturer, you got to cut your yard with something. So you got to buy a mower. All right, renewable natural resources. When you think of renewable natural resources, think of the word renewable. It means it can be renewed, it can come back, and then natural resources, things that are derived from nature. So if it's a renewable natural resource, that means it's provided by nature and it can replace or renew itself. That's simple. So examples of a natural resource will be wildlife. Deer, they're born every day. You can harvest deer by killing them, slaughter them, eating them, and then more deer are born when deer mate. Same thing with birds or songbirds, birds of prey, fish, rabbits. But it's important not to overfish areas, and it's important not to overhunt areas, or you're not going to have that renewable factor. Forest. There's trees and grasses. So in forest, a tree is going to reproduce, let seedlings out. You're going to harvest the bigger trees, use those for lumber, use them for paper, and then new trees are going to grow up and you can harvest it again. So it's a cycle. Same thing with grasses. You can harvest those, and more is going to grow. But again, it's important not to over-harvest these types of items. All right, progress in agriculture. This is the last thing we're going to touch on in this video. There's the mechanization. Helps 2% of America's workforce produce the food and fiber to meet the needs of our nation. And then there has been a reduction for 90% of nations' population involved in farming 200 years ago to less than 2% in 2012, just recently. So you think of colonial times, 90% of the population was involved with agriculture in some way or fashion. Now, there's only 2% involved. So that's crazy how farmers today are feeding a lot more people than the farmers of yesteryear.